making my that look nice.
Okay. So I started a podcast thinking I'm adding value to people's lives. I'm giving lots of resources to solopreneur until I came across with a person and I went to his website. I looked at his blog and my mind was blown away because he had actually thousands of dollars of worth of information hosted on his website into his blogs for free. Anyone can come and grab those resources and they can succeed in their life. It really hurt my ego really big time, but it is really such a blessing. Means I really consider it is a blessing to have that person, that celebrity, that big name on my podcast as my guest. Means I'm totally humbled. So without further delay, let me invite our celebrity, our lawyer, our podcast lawyer, Gordon Firemark. He is a podcast lawyer, and that name itself tells what he provides. So, without me giving more introduction, let me invite Gordon. So, Gordon, really, I'm so blessed to have you on my podcast. Means the amount of resources you are providing for free to the community, those are mind blowing. And I'm pretty sure today's podcast, whatever information you give to my audience, it is going to change their life because I have listened to your previous talks and they were really mind blowing. So, how did you get started into this business? Because this is not easy business.
Well, hi,
Yeah,
Sue.
means
First off,
law itself is not easy, and then yours is so specialized. So, tell me your journey. I want to
well,
know.
yeah, thank you first for having me on. I really am glad to be here, and I love to share what I know and how I help is by giving people enough information to make good decisions and to do what's necessary to protect themselves and others, and that allows them to have the maximum impact that a media person, a creator, can have. And so I'm just glad for the opportunity to share. To answer your question, I got started. Excuse me. I got started very early on with a passion for the entertainment industry, live theater, and started as when I was a 5-year-old boy, I was exposed to it, and I just fell in love with the magic of creating entertainment, and that followed me all the way into college, where I studied radio, television, and film. I worked in theater when I was in high school, studied radio, television, and film in college, and it was only in the last year of school that I discovered an aptitude and an interest in the regulatory and the legal aspects of things. And a professor called it to my attention and suggested I think about going to law school. And I kind of laughed it off at the time. But a couple of years later, I was working in television here in Hollywood, and our Writers Guild went on strike, and there was not going to be anything to do for a while. And I didn't have any income. I thought now's a good time to go to law school and, extend my knowledge a bit. After that, it was, practicing law was the obvious thing to do. And here I am. And so my whole career, I've worked in the entertainment law field, and that is helping filmmakers and I worked with music artists at one time. I don't do that anymore, but filmmakers and television producers and creators of all kinds of media, book publishing. And then as I've been doing this a long time, the world of blogging and podcasting and YouTubing and all those things came about. I've sort of stayed with it. I'm a bit of a techno geek, so I love to follow that stuff. And I started my own podcast in 2009 after having been a guest on a few shows and things. And at that point, I realized, well, I want to make sure I know what I need to know about doing this from a legal standpoint so I can protect myself. And as I did that, I realized there were no resources on the subject. So I sat down and I researched it and I wrote a book. And when you write a book, you become an expert on a subject.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah, and see, entertainment is really so exciting, and law seems to be dry. See, I'm not actually pro in both areas, but I'm just telling you my perception. So this is a really, you can say either strange or weird combination, or you can say even balance, because they are balancing each other out. So what is your experience in that?
Well, if we were talking about insurance law or bankruptcy or something like that, I would agree. It's dry. It's kind of boring. I mean, it has its interesting moments. The cases are some of them, they're exciting for the people involved, not always in a good way, but they are exciting. But it's one of the nice things about this field: entertainment law, intellectual property, podcasting, and these kinds of things. When we're talking about the cases, it's because people doing this stuff encountered a problem either with each other or somewhere out in the world. And so by their very nature, they're interesting people. And so the cases tend to be a little more interesting, and the work is interesting. And as I said, I really get my charge from just helping people create cool stuff and do it safely in a way that they reach a lot of people and get their message out.
I know, because I started my podcast with your guest release format, that I got it for free and I could get started on my podcast, and that was such a blessing. I really am thankful for that. And so 2009, you said there were not many resources, but even after 12, 13 years, I really don't see more resources. So I really don't see people doing much work in that area. So in that case, actually, we really appreciate what you are providing to the community. Means we are really thankful for that. And when I asked you about your bio and all, many points you mentioned, they are not actually pertaining only to podcast, because you comprised all entrepreneurs. So what is your opinion about that? Because what kind of protection or laws you provide to, in general, all the entrepreneurs?
Well, nowadays, so much of what we do as entrepreneurs in the world is about media content, creating, things. If not a podcast or a YouTube channel or something, I mean, we all use these things every day as marketing tools, even when we make, widgets or teach courses and things. And lots of online courses are really, content. So many of the rules are very much the same. And I guess what I'm sort of trying to do is to teach creatives that what they're doing is in fact a business, and they need to approach it like a business, and to teach the business folks who are making creative things to think about it in terms of those kinds of things and the legal implications that making content has. So I guess I'm sort of bridging the gap between the creative side and the business side of things. And I like helping people on both sides of it. So business owners need to think about the structures and the and the intellectual property and how they build their teams and all of those kinds of things, just like creators do.
Yeah, actually, means it is so much needed. I can tell you from my experiences. Okay, means I do blogging. I also have YouTube channel, and I learned it very hard way, because blogging I started just as a hobby. I had a lot of interest in spirituality, so I was just blogging just out of a hobby, and I never thought, means basically anyone would read my blogs, or even I would make money from them, and that was never intention. So that was just hobby. Then I started getting a lot of traction on my blog. And then I started getting some complaints also. Hey, you got this image from somewhere. It is copyrighted. You are not allowed to it. I said, I had no idea. I was just actually doing it just as fun and hobby and all. So if I knew what is allowed, what is not allowed, I think I would have protected myself there in that blogging area. And also, okay. And also, I can tell you about the YouTube channel. YouTube channel I started, actually, I have now a couple of YouTube channels, and I started 2 more. But the first one, when I got started, actually, it was business as my niche, and it went on really good. I started monetizing, and then I had too many things going on. So I just handed over to someone to take care of it. And I said, okay, you manage my YouTube channel because I'm busy with my other activities. And then he started putting lots of other stuff on my YouTube channel. And then one day I got message from YouTube that we cannot monetize your channel anymore. I said, why? What happened? Because, he said, no, we see the content which is reused on your channel. I said, I never put any content, but when I handed over my channel to someone else to manage, they were just putting the stuff which was getting somebody else's creation. And I took away channel from them, but meanwhile I lost it, right? And if I knew that what is allowed, what is not allowed, I would have protected myself. So if someone is starting any business, what should they do? What are the basic requirements? Because see, then I don't want them to be suffering like me, because in both areas I suffered, means I recovered, but still there was a lot of loss of time, money, and a lot of resources, and it is a lot of headache for no reason. Why such things are happening? If I had knowledge in advance, I would have protected myself and I would have saved myself from so many headaches. So what is your advice in that area?
Well, what I would say is that anybody who is starting really any kind of a thing, a business, whether it's intending to make money or you're just doing it for fun, but if you're going into something, there's a part of it that people often forget, and that's the getting ready part. I actually just did a little video yesterday where I said, look, so many people are saying are go, ready, aim, or go, ready, set, when you have to start with ready. And being ready means knowing what kind of a business or thing you're getting into, and laying the proper foundations so that you don't wind up in the situation you found yourself into, that someone is ostensibly doing you a favor, but they're not doing you any favors because they're not doing things right. So you have to have a foundation. And
they were not doing favor. I was paying them to maintain my channel.
Even worse.
So just
so I say start by thinking about it like a business, and in many cases that means forming a company of some sort, and using a corporation or a limited liability company, or maybe it's just a simple partnership or a sole proprietorship, but knowing the structure and how you're going to be operating. And then as you start to grow the team, making sure you have good contracts between yourself or your company and anybody else who is coming into contact with your business and your products, so that they know what's expected of them and what's not. And so that everybody's expectations. I was just talking to a client earlier today who said, I was so glad that we did this contract, because when I had to fire my employee, I knew that I had to give her 7 days notice, and she knew that was all she was going to get. And she was just able to sleep well at night knowing she had done it because we laid it out for her, gave her the plan. So a lot of it is about just having good, clear definitions and explanations of things, and saying, hey, when in doubt, come see the boss, right? So the first foundation is the entity, the corporation or LLC or something. The second entity is as you build your team using really good contracts and things like that. And then the next foundation is really understanding what you own, what you have, the intellectual property, copyrights, trademarks, patents, trade secrets. If you've got stuff that is worth something, you want to protect it. And so much of what we create nowadays, these intangible things like the content of a podcast episode or of a video, or maybe it's even just a framework of thinking about things that you've, sort of done yourself and kept it to yourself, and therefore it has value. Well, you can't just lock those in a closet somewhere. You have to figure out ways to protect. So you have to understand that how copyright law works, how to protect your brand names and things like that, trademarks, service marks, and what to do to maintain secrecy with things where that's important. So then that's the intellectual property, and then you're ready to start selling and start making money by bringing in clients or customers or whatever it is. And another thing that so many content makers forget is that the people they're making the content for, the consuming the content, those are not the customers. Your audience is actually your product. What a media creator is doing is selling audience attention to sponsors, or sometimes you're selling your own products to your audience, but getting their attention that's about bait to get them to focus on you long enough for you to offer them something, or for your customers to offer them something. So once you start to think about it that way, then you realize, well, if I'm going to have clients and customers paying me for this access to the audience, again, a good contract relationship really matters. You have to articulate what they can expect, what you should expect, when they're going to pay you, and what might affect the amounts that are being paid, and what's expected of you. I actually am doing an ad deal right now for myself, for my podcast, where the sponsor has agreed to our price and then comes in and says, so just do a host read ad. And I said, great, what do you want me to read? And he says, oh, just write something. And I said, well, if you want me to write something, there's a different price attached to that, because I've now got to sit on and research your company and all the things that copyright. And I'm not a good copywriter, so I don't know why anybody would want that. So again, clarity of what the relationship means and what everybody can expect is really important. And then you monetize, and you got the cash rolling in, and it's wonderful.
See, you mentioned about the company and trademark and team and all. And actually, I deal with a lot of audiences, and those are mainly solopreneurs.
Yeah.
So they are the only person working, and they are the only thing. They are entity, they are boss, they are employee, they are employer, they are everything.
Yeah.
What can they do? How can they protect? Because I talk to them and I said, have you taken precaution? So they think, what precaution? I'm the only person, and they don't protect themselves any possible way. They don't even register their company. They just start doing something on their own from home on computer and try to make money. What do you suggest? What should they do?
Yeah, well, protecting oneself comes in two different. There's two angles to it. One angle is if somebody comes to you claiming that you hurt them, or you took something of theirs, or you deprived them of some of their rights or something like that. And these are the kinds of things that come up in the media. You used my material without my permission, or you talked about me when you shouldn't have, or you said something that was false. Those kinds of things. Well, first of all, knowing the rules and knowing what the boundaries are is important. But having that company in place that insulates your personal assets, your home, your retirement accounts, your bank accounts, those kinds of things, you want to keep that separate from the business thing that you're doing, if it's intended as a business, especially. So forming a company, even if you're a one man or one woman show, it can be very valuable to do it. There are also tax benefits sometimes, and you can take tax deductions for things as a business that an individual can't. So you want to talk to your tax people about this as well as you go into this. The other side of it, though, is protecting yourself by being careful, essentially, not taking other people's things and those sorts of things. And then there's sort of another approach that if you're not going to form a company, if you're not going to take all these precautions, then I say, spend some money on a good insurance policy that covers these kinds of things. They're a little hard to find, but media errors and omissions insurance, if you're doing media, is it's a valid way of protecting yourself, because then you don't have to come hire me yourself. The insurance company goes and hires a lawyer for you if you ever do get sued or something. So
if they don't form a company like LLC or incorporate or those kind of thing, then they should have really good insurance, right? So that somewhere or other.
And my feeling is the insurance is always going to be the more expensive of those two options. Even here in California, where starting a company can be quite inexpensive, running a company yearly, $1,000 a year just to keep the company open and going, at least. So that is expensive, but insurance will cost you more than that. And so my way of thinking is better to be prepared and better to build the fort than to expect somebody to come along and save you from trouble later on. So erect the walls, dig the moat.
Because I come across with lots of bloggers, even YouTube creators, or even people having online businesses like e-commerces and all. I don't see them having any kind of company. So
Well, I mean, there is that expense of operating, and for a blogger, for example, who isn't making any money and is really just sitting down and writing every couple of times a week or something like that, they may just not see the value in doing that. And so my answer to that is, well, at least you should know what's possible and know what the risks are. Yeah, and you want to jump out of an airplane, go ahead. It's a risk people want to take. And yeah, you have a parachute and you still know there's a possibility something will go wrong. Same thing. If you're just blogging a little bit and it's more just as a hobby or something, or just to, express your thoughts and let somebody else maybe read them, that's one thing. But when you're setting out to make a living from it, or to make, even as a side hustle kind of money, it makes sense to set things up correctly. If we take nothing away from this, is, hey, think about getting set up right, and then obviously evaluate the cost benefit of doing these things. But I think the benefit is nothing bad happens, and unfortunately, most of the time when we're offering people opportunities to take care of the legal stuff, we can't promise them that they're going to have amazing success. It depends on so many other things, but they're not going to get in trouble, or they're going to be able to sleep right because they know they can fire that employee on 7 days notice or whatever.
Yeah. So bloggers or digital products creator or YouTube creators and all, it's advisable to have LLC, right?
I think LLCs
okay.
here, in most states in the US, the LLC function is the best. The model is the best one to use, but everybody's different. You got to have some advice on these, or do some research, or take a course that teaches you how to do this stuff. And I just happen to have such a course. So,
oh, sure. I would like to know more about that for sure. I also wanted to ask you, you mentioned that there are 4 essential components to a solid professional business-like approach for any entrepreneur activity. And whenever people start a business, they don't have those things. So will you please, enlighten us about those?
Yeah, it's what we just went through. It's the foundation is the business structure. Then there's the team structure, the intellectual property strategy, knowing how you get and own and protect your intellectual property, and knowing how to avoid infringing on other people's intellectual property, and then having a strategy and the right contacts and contracts and approach to dealing with your customers and clients. Those are the 4. And then, that's aside from having a head for marketing and knowing how to write the copy for your ads and all those kinds of things, that's really part of that client content strategy.
So many business owners, they don't start on the right foot. But what are the biggest mistakes the creatives and entrepreneurs they do, which hold them back from achieving big success? So
yeah, the biggest mistake I see is waiting too long. If you don't get yourself ready and trouble comes, then it's too late. Now it's about getting out of the trouble. And that is always a harder fight and more expensive and more, time consuming and angst inducing, and gives you headaches and you don't sleep well. So my feeling is, before you think you need it is when you want to get these things in place. Just like insurance, right? It doesn't do you any good to buy the insurance the day after the accident.
Oh, yeah. Surely not. Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, I lost my cell phone. Somebody stole it. And I thought I had insurance. So I called the insurance and they say, yeah, everything is covered except the theft. I said, oh my goodness, I never knew it. Yeah. I never lost my phone before. So first time I lost it, and I didn't know that I didn't have those insurance. So anyway, that was too late. You are absolutely right. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So, the big mistakes, they really come down to whether, being unprepared, being caught unprepared. And that preparedness can be, that you took care of things like the company and the team contracts and those kinds of things, or also just not being prepared in the sense of not knowing what the rules are, where the boundaries are, what's what. And so educating oneself is another part of being prepared, being ready. And another big mistake. Yeah. So that's a big mistake, is just not doing the kind of boring work of studying these, as you said, the law is dry, right? But if you're making content and you want to use a piece of music, you better know you've got the rights to use that music, or or take the risk knowing what the consequences might be. So I definitely think that's another mistake. What other mistakes would I point you to? Being too trusting your team to do things the way you expect them to be done without clearly delineating exactly when, how, and what needs to be done. And at some point you do have to trust. I mean, you shouldn't be distrustful, but what was the statement? Trust but verify, and just being as clear as possible. So assuming people know how to do it the way you want it done is always a big mistake too.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with you, because I'm going on vacation and I want to delegate some of my tasks to some other people. And they have been telling me, okay, tell me. I said, no, I'm going to make a detailed video. I will tell you how I do it and how I want you to do it. And then only I will give that task to you. They said, no, we know how to do it. I said, no, I just means basically your knowing and my knowing may not match. I just don't want to go ahead. And especially I learned it a hard way because I delegated my stuff too early without knowing it, and then I suffered. So no, actually, at least I gained some knowledge, some wisdom. So how can someone basically easily get started into the business without hiring expensive attorneys? Because most of the solopreneurs I come across, and whenever I talk about any law related stuff, they always think, oh, it's a lot of money. I don't have resources for that. So what do you suggest?
Yeah, whenever you're encountering these kinds of issues, the legal stuff, the business stuff, you have 4 choices of how to do things. One is not to do anything at all. Okay, that is a choice. The second one is hire somebody to do it for you. And that involves placing a certain degree of trust and spending a certain amount of money to hire someone like myself to handle the legal for you and basically hand you the turnkey thing, whatever it is, whether it's a registering of a trademark or forming the company or something like that. The third way is to do it yourself. And, you go to the Oracle of Google and you ask them how to do this thing, and you hope you get it right. The fact of it is anybody can post their video on YouTube. And so you don't know whether the person who's giving you the easy to digest information that you like actually knows what they're talking about. Hopefully some of us are able to convey that we do. But the fourth one, and this is the one I really want to share with people, is you can invest a little bit in resources and tools and instruction on how to do things right. And when you're willing to invest a bit, you can sign up for a course or purchase a bundle of forms and contract templates and things like that. And so that's what I have done, is I've made just such a thing. And for podcasters, my product is called easylegalforpodcasters.com. And it is just that. It's a template bundle and instructional course on the 4 things we talked about: how to develop your business structure, which structure to choose and when to form it, and how to go about actually getting the documents filed and doing those things. So you don't have to do it by yourself and hope you're right, because you've got an expert walking you through step by step. Same thing for registering your trademarks, registering your copyrights, contracting with your team. And we've got a library of forms and templates for that. And then, of course, when it comes time to monetize and bringing in those clients and customers, same thing, more contracts and templates. So have that for podcasters. We also have a product that's more aimed at the digital entrepreneur, whatever that really means. Course creators and coaches and folks like that working online, and that's also
that is really great. So that means people can save tons of money, because if I want to go to a lawyer, means hourly, I will end up paying like $1,000 per hour or something like that. And instead of that, means if I just if I just get access to this kind of course, means that will be so good. That will be so helpful for anyone.
Yeah.
So actually, I was going through your so many blogs, and the blogs are so interesting. Means you have blogs like media law, basics for podcasters and YouTubers, thinking of podcast as a hobby, disaster in making. Many times people get started into podcast as a hobby and they never think of anything beyond that. So, do you want to tell anything about your blogs? Because I find your blogs are really, really interesting. They are so resourceful and informative that they're really amazing.
Well, as I said at the beginning, I love to share my knowledge and educate people and inform folks on the things they need to know. And so the blog is one way that I do that. That my law firm blog is at firemark.com. Pretty much everything else I do, you can find on either gordonfiremark.com, which is where you'll find my products and services and those kinds of things. And find me on Facebook and find me on YouTube. And the good news is I have a distinctive name. So G Firemark, that's GFIREMARK on most of the social media sites. You'll find me and you see what I do. I think my YouTube channel is really a great resource these days. I try to post at least once a week of, some kind of a tidbit about the legal aspects of podcasting and YouTubing and those kinds of things. So
yeah,
thank you for the
guest release form, which I got from you initially, that free one, where if my audience wants to get it, where can, that is also available on your website, right?
Right. So one of the freebies that I offer as a download is the podcast guest release, which you can find at podcastrelease.com. If I have a crusade, it's this. If you are doing a podcast or a live stream or anything, and you bring guests on your show, you should practice safe guest. Treat it just like we would with safe sex. Use one every time, a release in this case, use one every single time, so that you don't end up having any problems with those folks coming on as guests and then claiming some kind of ownership of the episode or anything like that. Another free resource that I would like to share is I have a checklist of these legal issues that we've talked about today, available at podcasterschecklist.com. And both of those will get you signed up onto my email list, and I'll be in touch with you from time to time. Not too often. I try not to spam you, but I'll let you know what I'm doing and what I'm up to, and give you opportunities.
No, your emails are very much value added. I may not open everybody's emails, but your email I always open because I learned something from your email every time. So means no doubt about it. And you don't spam. Yeah. So I always get to learn something new from you.
Let's be honest. Some people are not glad to hear from you, and some people are. So I'm glad you're on the plus side there.
So that is why basically I was shocked when I asked you will be guest, because you are such a high profile individual, achieved so much in your life and profession and career and all, and still you agreed and you came on my podcast. And I was really humbled because generally when I'm dealing with such a high profile person, they dance around, they play lots of games and all, but you didn't do any of those things. So I'm really thankful for that. And you have been actually opening your heart and helping everybody, helping everyone in the audience. And now this is actually live everywhere, even live on Facebook and Twitch. And also everyone will be listening and gaining lots of information and resources. I totally appreciate you coming on my podcast. But do you want to you throughout the episode, you just told us how you can help my audience, how you can help the community, but how can we help you? What can we do for you?
Well, sign up for my stuff. Follow me on social media. Follow me on YouTube. If you do need help, please, I hope you'll think of me and I'll be your first call. And tell your friends, spread the word. If you know somebody, or if you have a podcast or a show of your own where sharing some information or answering some of these kinds of questions can be valuable, I'd be delighted. I always love going on as a guest. Really, I feel like the day that I'm too busy to help people this way is the day that it's time for me to retire and do something else with my life, because, we're all here to help each other, and all of us can realize our dreams if we all go together and work together to make it happen. So I'm just grateful.
Do you have any interesting stories or client testimonials or any transformational stories? Because we would just like to know, because in your career, you must have helped so many people actually means overcoming from their disasters and all. If you have a couple of stories to share, me, I would like to
Yeah.
hear them.
I would love, I mean, I can share about things in the abstract, but, we lawyers are bound by some confidentiality.
Oh, yeah, of
and
course, you cannot tell
privileges.
them names
So
and all. Yeah, sure, I totally agree.
I have
Sorry.
had the wonderful good fortune to work with some very, very famous and very exciting names over the years, and people across all different areas. I mean, some of my favorite were magicians, working with magicians, performing on stage and dancing and choreography and all those kinds of things. But as far as the war stories, I really consider my job the kind of law I do. I don't go into the courtroom. I'm not a litigation attorney. So I really view my job as to do the kinds of things that keep things calm. And so there aren't a lot of wild stories. I'll tell you one that not so wild, just sort of a cautionary tale. And this is about the creative who sat down and started creating. Actually, he created a podcast network, and one of the shows on the podcast was a very, very popular show about a popular television program. And over the course of the many seasons that this show existed, my client got busier and busier, and so he started bringing on guests to be the co-host of the show. And eventually, one of these fellows became sort of the lead. He was the go-to person, and he became the leader of the show. And my client ended up being the secondary host of the show. And after a while, they started having a little bit of a disagreement about how they were going to monetize the show. Were they going to use Patreon, or were they going to sell ads, or what? And at some point, it was enough of a disagreement. They were arguing about it all the time. And my client, in the interest of sort of calming things down, he just said in a text message, he said, "Hey, you know what? It's your show. We'll do it your way." Well, "It's your show" became, "Hey, here it is. It's a gift. I no longer own it," in the minds of this other fellow. So they end up spending about a year arguing back and forth through their lawyers, paying us by the hour, me and the other lawyer, to negotiate the end of their relationship. Essentially their podcast divorce. And it became question. I mean, same kind of thing. Who gets the house and who gets the kids? Here it was, who gets the episode content and who gets the RSS feed, the access to the audience. These became big hot button issues. And I'll tell you, between the two parties and the amount of the money in the settlement, it was well into the six figures before it was all over. So those are the kinds of things where, had they done some initial groundwork when they started the relationship, a prenup, if we're going to stick with the marriage metaphor, none of this would have been a thing, because they would have had a written contract that articulated everything. And had they decided to, there still might have been a fight over something, but it wouldn't have been over who owns
that
it.
long, and
right. Exactly.
That's stressful. Yeah.
So
what is your vision? We talked about your journey, but what is your vision? What is your future vision?
Well, my goal, I'll start with my goal, is to help as many 10,000 or more creatives in the media space. And I'm glad to say I'm well on the way to reaching that goal before I retire or die. But I guess my vision is a world where someone like me is not even necessary, where everybody is well informed, where creators can go out and create freely, knowing and confidently understanding that they're doing it right and that they're getting a message out and they're touching other lives. And I really believe it's exponential. You and I talk here, and a few of your listeners hear what I have to say, or we have to say, and then they say something to on one of their shows, and a few more listeners now have come to understand that issue or concept or whatever, and so on and so on and so on. It becomes the normal. The understanding becomes widely accepted. We live in an imperfect world where not everybody believes everything they hear, which is good, but people often believe the misinformation before the real information. And so we'll get there someday, I hope. I mean, maybe it's a
I read somewhere that in ideal world, actually doctors and lawyers are not needed, but first time I heard from a lawyer saying that. So means, and I'm totally grateful with your episode, your wisdom, and any final thoughts or final summary or anything?
Yeah, let me just say one more thing is that as you are going into the world of creating things, whether it's podcasts or online courses or whatever, getting the business and the legal stuff taken care of, as well as having the right mindset and planning and those kinds of things. These are just as important as good quality sound and good video and lighting and having good content and of course marketing and reaching an audience and those kinds of things, because if you don't have the foundation laid, it will crumble very easily. So I guess my message to folks is, hey, give this some thought, go get ready, and then go out and conquer the world.
Thank you. We really appreciate. And to my audience, I just wanted to tell you, you are creating, you are following your dream, but what are you doing to protect yourself and your family and your loved one? This is the greatest resource you can ever find. Just get hold of it, protect yourself, protect your family, protect your loved one, and protect your future. It is really valuable. Thank you for being our guest. We really appreciate you, and in whichever way, we can help you, will surely help you, will follow you. But that won't be helping to you, because that will be helping to ourselves, because everywhere we follow you, you will be putting value to our life, and we are immensely grateful for that. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you for you being a guest on our podcast. Thank you. Really appreciate.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Glad to be here.
Bye.